I am Nikarasu with the Paparazzu, and as you can see, I finally got this video out on why Double Exposure is the worst story in all the Life is Strange series. I would have liked to make this video sooner, long before even Reunion was announced, but my lack of commitment and my laziness got the better of me, as well as my attention span. Now before I get into anything, can you guys do me a favor and hit that like button? Your boy Nikarasu would really appreciate it. So some things I'm not going to go over, such as the pride flag being in the bar, when one of the employees there is actually a lesbian, or the fact that they have a trans character in the game. Because I could not care less. Because aside from these games always having gay or bisexual characters, and Max being a part of it since she's bisexual herself, Max lives in a community that's accepting the LGBTQ community. If this is just something you don't like in games or anything else, that's fine. But whether or not this stuff is in the game isn't going to change the problems I have with this. The problem I have with Double Exposure. So the things that I take issue with that I'll be going over in this video are the plot, the choices, and the character assassinations. As well as go over some other issues that I have that are kind of small, but I think they're worth mentioning nonetheless. As for the plot, this is going to focus on stuff that I had issues with within the story. Like stuff that just doesn't work, and stuff that was just convenient for the plot. For this, I'll be going episode by episode. As for the choices, I definitely take issue with a lot of the choices in this game. But to be fair, the choices can also align with like the plot and character assassination. But this is a choice-based game, so I thought I should add a choice category. As for the character assassination, there were plenty of characters that were character assassinated in this game, so I'll be going to all of them that I thought of and had issues with. And I already went over what 4 is going to be like, so let's get into this. In episode 1, I don't really have any issues aside from one thing, and it's the fact that Gwen has to just call out in the open.
I told you, don't contact me on this phone, and text only, no calls.
This sounds interesting.
Well, I'm sure the police know that already, even if... I understand that, but did they find anything?
Wow, that's not suspicious or anything. So this is 2 days after Safi's been killed and the police have no leads whatsoever. And here's Gwen having this very suspicious phone call out in the open, where anyone, and in fact 2 people, did overhear this. And of course they were suspicious about it. Rather than take a conversation like this into her office, she just decides to have this conversation in the open where anyone can hear her and suspect that she may have been the one to kill Safi. Which they could go to the police and Gwen would become the prime suspect in the murder, as well as the person she's on the phone with. And this would cause a lot of problems for Gwen. If the police question her, she's likely going to tell them everything about the whole situation of Gwen getting Safi's book cancelled, as well as reveal that Lucas plagiarized Maya's book and that Yasmin tried to keep it a secret. While it wouldn't make them more suspicious, there still wouldn't be any proof that they actually murdered Safi. But they would still want to avoid the police investigating them even if they didn't do anything. Because Yasmin was doing everything she could to keep the fact that Lucas plagiarized Maya's book a secret. Gwen even gets mad at Max for trying to get involved in her business.
You know, I really thought we were cool. Just stay out of my way.
Well, if you don't like people getting involved in your business, or having your privacy invaded, then don't have suspicious phone calls out in the open where anyone can hear you. Moving on to episode 2, when Max discovers her new powers. And honestly, this whole thing is an issue not just in this episode, but in every episode afterwards too. The premise of Max using her powers to get to the bottom of who killed Safi doesn't work. While I understand she's devastated and wants to get to the bottom of who killed Safi because Safi was her friend, she still wouldn't and shouldn't use her powers whatsoever. Back in the first game, even though she had good intentions, using her powers put people's lives in danger. And no matter what ending you chose, the lesson is still the same. I like to think of the lesson that Max learned to be a twisted version of Spider-Man's motto. Instead of with great power comes great responsibility, Max learned that with great power comes devastating consequences. And I would say that aligns perfectly, because Max using her powers did result in devastating consequences. The fact that the plot revolves around Max using her powers again just means that they negated the whole lesson. That she didn't learn from it. Max is older and remembers exactly what happened in the first game when she used her powers. She should know better. For all she knew, traveling back and forth between the living and the dead world could have caused problems. A stone could have been created in both the living and dead world. That's what she could have been risking. Even more people would have been at risk. But she's putting all that aside so she can solve this case. So she can save Safi in the living world. This becomes even more of a problem if you choose the sacrifice Chloe route. In order to save the thousands of people in Arcadia Bay, she had to sacrifice Chloe, the person that she loved most in the world. Yet she's willing to risk lives again just to save Safi? In Max's journal, it says that she met Safi on September 20th. That same year, not even a full 3 months later, Safi ends up getting killed. Which means she's putting lives in danger for someone that she only knew for about 3 months? Max made the choice to sacrifice her best friend, her childhood friend Chloe, who she loved most in the world, just so thousands of people can live? But is completely fine with putting lives in danger again, just to help someone she only knew for not even 3 months? She's gotta go completely against the lesson she learned from the first game just for the plot to happen. The second thing in episode 2 is that Reggie had saw himself up in the place where Safi was killed.
I saw myself. Another me.
Yet it's never made clear as to why Reggie was able to see himself. It's also not made clear whether it's the Reggie from the past or Reggie from the living world that he saw. Nothing's explained here. Like seriously, I thought Max was the one that had the power to see all this shit, so why is Reggie and other people able to see stuff like this? And from what I've seen and remember from the game, Reggie doesn't have any powers whatsoever. This is just something that they added in the game but did nothing with it. Oh, looky here. Loretta's at the spot where Reggie saw his other self, so why doesn't she see her other self here? It's the same location and everything. Like, seriously, I want the answer to this question. Like, what's going on here? Afterwards, Max gets a text from Moses saying that he needs her help. He says that the cop believes that he's the prime suspect and confesses to Max that he did in fact take Safi's camera. Now this here honestly isn't a problem. The problem is what's to come shortly. Max was able to enter Moses' office from the living world. She uses a key that she took from the living world to open the cabinet in the dead world. The camera's not there like she was hoping it would be. Even though the camera's not there, there is something in there that would be very useful to Max.
This note wasn't here in the other timeline. That can't be a coincidence.
So based on this dialogue, it would imply that Moses left this for Max. And this is where the problem occurs. When did Moses have time to do this? Like, if Moses had planned this far before Alderman life, then why didn't he tell Max sooner? Or why even bother with the note and just give the camera to Max? Or if this was indeed something that he did last minute, which I think he did, then how could he expect Max to sneak into his lab and get the camera before Alderman does? At this point in the story, Moses doesn't know that Max has powers. So he'd have no reason to think that Max would get to the camera before Alderman would. If Max didn't have powers at all, Alderman definitely would have gotten to the cabinet and found that note. Which would very well likely make Moses even more suspicious, and eventually Alderman would have found the camera. And it definitely would have ended badly for him. Moses got lucky here. Max is lucky too, but she had a way to avoid this, so... Another thing that's worth noting here is that when Max reveals that she has Safi's camera, Moses is completely surprised and doesn't understand how she could have gotten it. Which shows that he has no reason to believe that Max could have gotten to the camera before Alderman. That note being there to help Max get to the camera was nothing more than being convenient for the plot. There's no logical or reasonable explanation for the note to be there. Because again, there's no way Moses could have expected Max to get to the camera before anyone else. Moving on to episode 3, the first issue I have is when Max accidentally lets Alderman into her house. Now her letting Alderman into the house isn't a problem, because she originally thought it was Moses that she was letting in, so she made a mistake here. One that's a non-issue. The problem here is Alderman trying to blame Max for this and coming to the conclusion that she could possibly be involved.
Arcadia Bay, where you went to high school, right?
Yes?
A beautiful town with a surprisingly violent story to tell. Not unlike...
Arcadia Bay and Safi are not connected.
a small town with a curious number of murders. And now, Safi, Luel, and Fayed, murdered in a small town? What are the odds? What do you think, Miss Caulfield? Are you the one who's unlucky, or is it just everyone who ever meets you? What the fuck happened to the telescope, Maxine?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Someone was in the office with me. I could hear them. I saw Moses in the hallway, but I didn't see you. All right, enough. We're not getting anywhere. This case has been abnormal from the beginning. None of the evidence makes any sense.
At least that's something we can agree on.
But I know why now. Somehow, all this death leads to you.
Now, to be clear, this is more of an issue with the path of if you choose to sacrifice Chloe. Because at least this makes a little more sense if you choose to sacrifice Arcadia Bay route. The problem here is that it makes no sense for Alderman to come to the conclusion that Max could possibly have anything to do with this. Like, I don't see how you can come to the conclusion that, like, oh, this very bad incident happened in this one person's town, and years later, when this person comes to another town, and something bad happens to that person. Like, it would make sense if that person was involved. However, since he said he looked into it, then he would know that Max literally had nothing to do with the incident in Arcadia Bay, with Jefferson and Nathan. From literally anyone else's perspective, the stuff that happened in Arcadia Bay and what happened to Safi would be nothing more than a coincidence. There should be no connection there. Alderman has nothing to work with, really. And with the bit of him not seeing Max around when he was in Moses' lab, and the evidence not making any sense, doesn't help his case because he saw Max leave. And even if the evidence isn't making sense, how are you going with the connection that Max is behind it somehow? He's basing all of this off of nothing. This is nothing more than the writers just wanting Alderman to put the blame on Max with no actual connection or anything. No logical or reasonable explanation behind it. He's just blaming Max and going crazy because it's convenient for the plot. Now, you might want to prepare yourselves, because this isn't the last time I'll bring up something that's just convenient for the plot. The second issue of Episode 3, one that's actually common with most critics I've seen, is the scene with Alderman's death. So this ghost-like version of Alderman from yesterday appears from out of nowhere with no explanation. Alderman records himself going to the crime scene and suspecting that Moses may be behind the killing. The real, or more so, the present Alderman ends up showing up. Confused and surprised, Alderman wants to know what the hell is going on, and so he makes the mistake of touching himself. Pause. And from this action, he ends up dying. With no logical or reasonable explanation for what the hell just happened to him here. They just took him out of the game because it was convenient for the plot. The third issue in Episode 3 is another common criticism of double exposure. Despite being annoyed and frustrated with Max listening on her previous conversation on the film from Episode 1, and feeling those even more so when Max confesses that she knows about Gwen getting Safi's book cancelled, Gwen easily just gives in and tells Max practically whatever she wants to know. At this point, Max hasn't done anything to earn the answer she's been looking for. She goes from being annoyed and frustrated with Max snooping around to a second later being like, well, I guess I'll confess pretty much everything. And it's like, what? You're just gonna give in just like that? At this point in the game, Max hasn't done anything to earn these answers from Gwen.
So what do you hardy boys want?
Just the names of some of your clients.
Oh, is that all? Oh, well, why didn't you just tell me? How about I just give you the keys to my RV while I'm at it?
This is handled much better in the first game where Max and Chloe are trying to get the list of clients from Frank. He wasn't going to just easily give them what they wanted. They had to earn it. And they earned it by remaining calm, staying on business, and appealing to Frank. Despite how your previous conversation with him might go, you have to stay on his good side here. You can't tell him anything that would trigger him, like revealing that you stole his keys and stuck into his RV. Because instead of getting what they want, they're just going to anger Frank and less likely get what they want. So the most effective way to get what they want is to appeal to Frank, with the idea that Rachel can be found and be reunited with him, which is what Frank wants. There's multiple dialogue options that you gotta go through, so therefore it's more earned here than it is in Double Exposure. Now I know that you still end up getting a list of clients from Frank no matter what you do, but this is the most peaceful way to get it and is a good comparison to the Gwen scene. As for the fourth issue in episode 3, to be fair, this is kind of an issue throughout the entire game. But how is it, when Max uses his power, nobody sees or hears anything? Like, as Max was listening to this conversation between Diamond and Vin from the living room was close by the whole time. Why is the characters can hear and see stuff from where Safi was killed, but they can't when Max uses this power of hers? The fifth issue in episode 3 is when Max is in Lucas's office and finds the transcript. And honestly, this was really stupid of Lucas. And I don't mean just because it's not that difficult to find it, but it's the fact that he still has it. Like, for what reason does he keep the transcript for? The book has been out for 4 years and Lucas has already made his money for 4 years, so what's the point in keeping the transcript? The transcript can be used as evidence that he plagiarized Maya's book. Obviously, he would want to do the simplest thing and get rid of the transcript. So why did he never get rid of it? The only reason why Lucas didn't get rid of it is because it's convenient for the plot. Now, I know I've been saying that a lot in this video, but like, there's so many things that happen because it's just convenient for the plot. Nothing's really earned. It's more convenient than anything else. Now, this is about everything for episode 3, and I'm gonna skip 4 because I didn't notice any issues with the plot in episode 4. Same for episode 5, so I'm just gonna move on to the issues I have with the choices. Now, I'm gonna skip all the choices in episode 1 because I don't find any of the choices in episode 1 to be problematic. The first one comes from episode 2. The choice of sending the picture of the restraining order to Safi or not. The option of send photo to Safi is the problematic one. Lucas explains that his child is involved with this and that Safi finding out about the restraining order can make things worse for his son. There is no way that Max would do something that would make something worse for a child. Despite how Max and Safi feel about Lucas, Max wouldn't let a child suffer because of that. Plus, by doing this, Lucas can also consider putting a restraining order on Max, which would make the investigation for Max harder to solve. So she would want to avoid this, especially since there would be no benefit to it. Worst case scenario, Safi just has to stay away from a guy she hates. That's far better than an innocent child to suffer from this and for Max to have a restraining order put on her. The second problematic choice also comes from episode 2. The option of agreeing or refusing to give Alderman information if you come across anything. Refusing is a problematic choice and honestly just really dumb. I mean, why would Max choose to refuse? If she chooses to refuse, then Alderman could suspect that she may have something to do with what happened to Safi. The last thing she would want is to become a suspect, especially become the prime suspect in this. This would just make it harder for Max to find out what happened to Safi. This is just a risk of no payoff. Like, Max doesn't even need to be honest. Like, she can just say what Alderman wants to hear. The third problematic choice is in episode 3. The choice to help Alderman or save yourself. And the save yourself one is the problematic one. Now, all the options of saving yourself would be beneficial. It's problematic because Max wouldn't just leave him to die. Even if he was crazy, Max would still try to do what she can to save him. She wouldn't punch someone just to save herself. Even if it's unsuccessful, Max would still try to save him. The save yourself option is damaging to Max's character. The fourth problematic choice is in episode 4. The option of telling Safi whether to expose Lucas as herself or as Vin. The go as Vin choice is the problematic one. The reason it's problematic is because, 1, it goes against what Max was just saying to Safi about how powers don't solve everything. And 2nd, they're putting Vin at risk with this. Vin backed down because Lucas threatened to sue him and to cost him his job. If Safi had failed here, then Vin would have become a victim because of them. And I'm sure you can guess this one. The final choice in Double Exposure, and I'm sure you all know why this is problematic. As you all know, the choice of join with Safi completely goes against the lesson that Max learned in the first game. For the record, this won't be the last time I bring this up in the video. As for choices making reasonable and logical sense, the first game does it better. Like, for example, when you're in Will's office and you have the option to either steal the money or not. Now, of course, people would say that it's morally wrong to steal the money, and they would be right. But you can argue that it does make logical and reasonable sense for them to steal the money here. Because Chloe mentions how she can use that money to pay off Frank, which will be beneficial to them since it could get Frank off their backs, and if they have any questions for him, he's more likely to talk. I mean, they can still get the answers they're looking for from Frank if you don't give him the money. But the point is that from their perspective at this moment, they could think that's more likely going to be helpful. Regardless of whether they wanted to or not, they still needed to talk to Frank because he may know something about Rachel. I mean, he does, but before, Chloe and Max didn't know anything. Now moving on to character assassination. And oh boy, does Double Exposure heavily character assassinate Max. So the first moment of character assassination that I found with Max was during one of her text messages with Chloe, during their time together after the events of the first game. Here Chloe tells Max that she wanted to buy tickets to an exhibit to surprise Max. And Max messages Chloe about using Rewind so she can get the tickets. I'm sorry, what? You're just gonna casually bring up your apocalyptic power that got thousands of people killed just so you can use it to buy stupid fucking tickets? You would risk the lives of the people in this town, repeat what you did, just so that you can buy freaking tickets. Even if you want to say Max is just joking here, I don't understand why she would joke about something like this. Even as a coping mechanism, it's completely callous as it shows a lack of empathy towards the people that died in Arcadia Bay. Even a lack of empathy towards Chloe since her mom died in the storm. And when Chloe tells her no and that she can live with her mistakes, Max goes on a temper tantrum like, "What do you mean that I can't live with my mistakes? Blah, blah, blah. There's a place we used to call home that says otherwise." Bitch, you just brought up using it for something so stupid which would put lives in danger and has killed thousands of people. I don't understand why Max is all of a sudden thinking this way when she said something so stupid. It would make people think otherwise, just like Chloe did here. Chloe's not the only love interest from the first game that Max has a lack of empathy for. In the last episode, when Max is in the vortex, she gets a text from Warren. And she thinks to herself, I'm past living in a dorm age. I'm past responding to Warren's text. Like, seriously? He was your friend that helped you out, and you chose to let him die. And you want to say something like this towards someone that you chose to let die? Not only does this show a lack of empathy, but it's also just disrespectful. And yes, this does happen if you pick the Sacrifice Arcadia Bay route. Aside from the choice of sharing the restraining order with Safi, there's also a part of it that character assassinates Max.
Absolutely not. Out of my office, now.
But I
just shipped my son out of the country because of your little stunt. You think we're just gonna go back to being friends?
Rather than feel remorseful for what she did and apologize, she just decides to talk about Maya instead to continue on with the investigation, completely ignoring her wrongdoing. Max's character assassination doesn't end here.
Well, joke's on you, Storm. If you don't think I play out this moment in my head every day, then you don't really know me.
So this game, Max tries to convince us that she's traumatized from the past, and that she even has PTSD from the storm that killed all the people in Arcadia Bay. The idea is good, but the execution is what's terrible. Because rather than more of the character assassination I'm going to go over, there's also another thing that shows she's not as traumatized from what happened in Arcadia Bay as she makes us want to believe. Now when Max is in a time vortex, she has to face her past. She has to confront everything she went through in the first game. Naturally, you think there'd be something in here that would show the storm, right? No, they don't. Instead, Max sees and has to relive when she was kidnapped by Jefferson, which honestly makes sense and is fair. And she also sees in the hotel, one of the hotels that her and Chloe used to stay at after the events of Arcadia Bay. If everything here is meant to throw everything back in Max's face, why isn't the storm around? But the thing that convinces me the most that Max isn't as traumatized as she in the game wants us to believe, is that she's willing to use her new powers without any hesitation and never bothers to think about the consequences they could cause. For all she knows, her new powers could be as dangerous as her old ones. She's gambling on the lives of everyone in Caledon, repeating what she did in the first game, but worse because she should know better. And if she's really as traumatized as we're led to believe, then why is she doing this? Why is she risking another storm being created? This contradicts her trauma and it's inconsistent. This is also just another moment of character assassination. She's character assassinated throughout all of double exposure just because she's using her new powers. Powers she should suspect are dangerous, that can put lives in danger. Yet she never bothers to think about that. So I don't think she's as traumatized as she in the game wants us to believe. Another thing to think about, if she's really traumatized, then why does she take her powers so lightly? Why does she think about using her powers for stupid stuff?
Rewind hasn't worked in years. But still, old habits die hard. Reggie's lucky I'm not gonna make him sweep up the glass. I need to stop doing that. Rewind is long gone. Damn it! She just locked this. If I could just... No. Even if I could rewind, that shit's behind me now.
Yet you still consider it. Now moving back to the final choice, and honestly, the biggest moment of character assassination from Max in Double Exposure. Immediately after Max and Safi fix the mess that the problems caused, Safi comes up with a not-so-bright idea of finding other people with powers, just like them, so that they can change the world. And Safi wants Max to join her, which is what the final choice is, to agree with Safi or to refuse her. This shouldn't even be a choice. There's no way that Max would ever agree to this. This literally goes against what she learned from the first game. If she were to join Safi, she would be putting billions of people in danger. Billions. Not only would she be putting billions of people in danger, but she's also spitting in the graves of Chloe or the people that were killed in Arcadia Bay. Chloe didn't want to be sacrificed just so Max could end up making the same mistake again, when she knows better. Now, despite not even being in the game, Chloe's also character assassinated. She's not even safe from character assassination. And this really sucks, because for those of you who may not know, Chloe's my favorite character in the entire Life is Strange series. So this one really hurts me. Now, just because Chloe's not part of the main story, doesn't mean her characterization can't be criticized. In shows, movies, and video games, things aside from the main story can be criticized, such as characterization, world building, continuity, and all sorts of other stuff. Now, I haven't seen anyone make a video on Chloe's characterization because of the fact she's not in the main story. And to be fair, if they don't want to talk about it, then they don't have to. It's really their choice, and if they just want to focus on the story, then that's completely okay. But I've seen people make comments saying that we can't criticize Chloe because she's not in the main story. Again, when it comes to a piece of media, you can criticize something even if it's not part of the main story. Things like character consistency is very important, regardless of that character is in the main story or not.
Not anymore. Max, I'll always be with you. Forever.
Well, apparently not forever, because Chloe goes back on her word and abandons Max. By abandoning Max, Chloe comes across as ungrateful for everything that Max sacrificed for Chloe. She also comes across as hypocritical, because the reason why she left Max is because Max can get over her trauma. Her trauma of sacrificing thousands of people. Meanwhile, Chloe also spent some years being traumatized over the death of her father. And I don't think I need to explain why the death of thousands of people is more impactful than the death of one person. Especially when you're the one responsible for the death of those thousands of people. And seeing as how badly Chloe wanted Max back in her life to help her through her trauma, Chloe should have done the same thing for Max, and should have expected that it would take a lot longer. Now I understand the developers wanted Max to be able to stand on her own, which is perfectly fine. However, at the cost, they ended up character assassinating Chloe. What they could have done instead is that maybe have Chloe work from out of town or something like that, and only be in the game through text messages and covering Max for the whole Safi thing. To be fair, I don't think that sounds like the best idea on paper, but it's a lot better than just character assassinating Chloe. So aside from Max and Chloe, there are also characters from Double Exposure that are also character assassinated. Such as Vin, who had a whole character arc about wanting to right his wrong. For putting his job promotion over the fact that Maya had taken her life over what Lucas did. And when he finally gets a chance to do what he should have done, he backs down.
You don't know what you're talking about.
Try me.
All right, all right, let's rein this in. Now, we wouldn't want this roast to end in any actionable legal threats.
He backs down from Lucas threatening a lawsuit and possibly costing him his job. Did he not think that could have been a possibility from exposing Lucas? This was enough to make him back out and make his character arc completely meaningless? Now, I hate Safi as much as everyone else does, and the hate is well deserved. After watching Double Exposure again, I noticed that Safi is also character assassinated. How, you may ask? Safi considers Moses to be her best friend and even her anchor, which is why she refused to ever turn into him. And we know that Moses feels the same way about Safi, which is why he's a good friend to her and even helps her and Max expose Lucas. Yet Safi said something that actually caught my attention.
It figures the only person I can rely on is me.
Safi, I don't...
Last piece of me, Max. It's in you.
Why isn't it hurting me like it hurt everyone else?
Maybe I trust you. Maybe it's more of your Magic Max bullshit.
One of the reasons that Safi gives for why Max isn't affected by her powers like everyone else is because she trusts her, which means that she's confessing that she doesn't trust Moses. And why would Safi not trust Moses when he's been nothing but a good friend, supportive, and even tries to help her? I mean, not only is she saying that she doesn't trust Moses, but she also doesn't feel bad for getting them involved in this. And for this reason, I say it makes even less sense for Safi to suddenly develop this God complex. Her God complex has leaned her down to a path far worse than Jefferson. Jefferson kidnapped and killed dozens of girls, but Safi wants to put billions of lives in danger. That's far worse! Now, as for regarding the new characters in Double Exposure, I didn't really care about the new characters that much. The only characters I thought were decent were Lucas, Moses, and Gwen. I would have liked to see more of Loretta. But other than characters I just mentioned, I'm not really interested, nor do I think the other characters were really good. Well, maybe not good isn't the right word to use. The better word to use would be interesting. As for small things I didn't like, first, I didn't like how they didn't really do anything with Max being a teacher. Like, throughout the game, I honestly forget that she's even a teacher. Like, could have done something here to where she's like, hey guys, how's the assignment you guys have for me going? Instead of asking students if they know any pickup lines. The second thing is the option of lowering Loretta's grade. Now, I can see why someone would want to get back at her, but for Max to lower her grade just makes her immature and petty. Now, this isn't character assassination, but I kinda expect Max to be more mature and not be petty like this. The last thing is that I find it weird that Max doesn't stay in touch with anyone from Arcadia Bay if you choose to sacrifice Chloe. She never bothered to stay in touch with Warren, Kate, or Joyce. Now that should cover everything I wanted to discuss in this video. If you want to give your thoughts on stuff that I said, stuff that I didn't go over, stuff that you may agree or disagree with, you're more than welcome to leave them down below in the comments. And if you're new to my channel, feel free to check out my other videos, shorts, posts, and subscribe if you haven't already.